Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back, baby. We are in the playoffs. It's time for the real football to get started. You are listening to One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. Big Jeff, good morning, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How about you, brother?
Good, man. Excited about these playoffs, excited about everything going on. Before we get into it, Cookie Society, cookies. Jeff, I know we're still in January. We got the same lineup. Remind us again, what do we got for cookies this month?
All right, so we have our classics. We got the chocolate chip, the banana pudding, the cookies and cream, the salted caramel. We have frosted oatmeal. We have M&M. We have cinnamon roll. Man, the list goes on. It's a lot of good cookies this month. Go to cookiesociety.com. We restock every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hurry because they go fast.
Hurry, get those cookies. And I can't recommend more outside of the cookies, the candles and the merchandise.
Yeah.
That is one of the best T-shirts that I have. I mean, the quality is unbelievable. So go check them out, cookiesociety.com. They ship nationwide. All right, Big Jeff, we're on to the playoffs. Let's recap real quick. It was week 8.
Week 18. Sounds weird, right? Week 18.
This is weird. Obviously, didn't play out the way we hoped. But I think there is a silver lining there that I tweeted about. But just give me your thoughts on the Broncos game. What did you think about that? I mean,
I think it was one of those games. It's tough. It's tough to come out with energy.
Yeah.
It's first off, it's the final game of the season. You've already clinched the division. 2 weeks prior, and it was bleak on you possibly getting the number 1 seed. You kind of lost the game before you knew you blew it, knowing that Tennessee was playing the Texans. And odds are they weren't going to lose their game. Anything can happen,
right.
But mentally that's tough. So I think they did a good job given the circumstances of waking up and making the necessary plays and winning the football game.
Yeah, I know. I think that's exactly right. And I evaluating it, I wasn't even taking that mental part of the game into it. But the week 18, that last week of the season can be really weird for everybody. Yeah. Like you said, for those teams going into the playoffs, your mind is already there.
Yep.
And even given the sort of different outcomes of where you're going to be in the bracket, you're still sort of on to the next week. And then what I thought was weird was I had spoken about this last time. A lot of times those teams going into week 18 that aren't playoff contenders, usually it's a crapshoot of what you're going to get from them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't know. And normally if you get up on a team, they're packing it in. The one thing I saw, we saw it with Denver. We saw it with the Texans the next, against the Titans on Sunday. These teams were fighting hard. I mean, these teams were some of these teams at the end that had no sort of playoff hopes. The Dolphins, they were really getting after it. And I'm curious to see now for these playoff teams going into the playoffs that had to play some of these games. New England. Obviously, Oakland and LA had a tough game.
Buffalo even had a tough one.
Yeah, Buffalo had a tough game, right? So you have these really tough games that played out like playoff games because all those teams needed to win. And now that was week 18.
Yeah.
So we have this extra week. Now you're going into the playoffs, right? So it's almost like you're going into the divisional round as far as your body is concerned. For a lot of these teams, they just played a playoff game. Yeah. And so this bye week, was certainly valuable. And it's obviously disappointing that we didn't get it. But yeah, I'm curious to see what teams start to look like now going into the divisional round, going into the championship game.
Well, I think you spoke on it on Twitter, but I think just the way that Denver game went with a lot of things to fix and clean up, you don't necessarily want to, get a bye week having that type of uncertainty, knowing that, you could have played a little bit better. So I guess the silver lining in all is we can fix some things against a team that we dominated.
Right.
Granted, this is the National Football League. They're going to make adjustments. I fully predict this being a closer game.
Right.
The Chiefs will pull it out. But this is the perfect time to fix those things that you need to against a team that you should undoubtedly beat. So
Right. No, that's exactly right. Now you can get rolling. You can flush that game that happened before. Because you're right. We've spoken about, the importance of the bye week for a number of reasons. One of those being going into the bye week, how important it is to have a good week before.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go into the bye week with a loss or a bad week before, you have to wait 2 weeks to flush that out. Now, and I said this on Twitter, you got to wait 2 weeks to flush that out. Now you're going into the divisional game playing against a team that just won the wild card round.
Yeah.
So they got a team that's already acclimated to the speed of the playoffs, that's going into the divisional game fired up, and you're still hazy from the Denver game, and you've had a week off. And so, so there's certainly, I think we would rather have had the bye week, but I do like the way this played out. You got a team, like you said, that you should beat at home to get things going, to flush that game before. So, and that's a great point. I think that plays out well for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have a lot of young bodies on that team that I think have the capability to continue to play fast throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about are some of these teams with some older guys that had to play 18 weeks of the regular season, finish out the last game as sort of a playoff game, and now you have wild card divisional AFC, because I always notice teams that have to go on the road, teams that play all 3 weeks in the playoffs. You get to that AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game, those teams are hurt
in there.
Yeah. But now you add another week. I mean, basically week 18 was another playoff week for a lot of teams. Now, so basically 4 games going into that AFC NFC Championship game. I'm just curious to see how
it's tough. I mean, this is the first year, so we're all going to see it in live action.
Yeah.
But just knowing from our experience and knowing how our bodies felt down the stretch, playing some playoff football, it's going to be a tough one. And we do have, I know we're young, but we do have some older guys. So I'm hoping that, Travis is going to get healed up and Tyreek and all those other guys. But it's going to be good to get out there and like you said, fix some of those things that we, messed up against Denver.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving on. We got the Steelers at home. Before we get into the Steelers game, let's recap that one, the LA Raiders, and the Raiders game there, because that was weird, right? So we had a playoff scenario where if the Chargers and the Raiders tied, both of them would be in the playoffs and Pittsburgh would be out. And so you have a tie going into the end of the game. And Jeff, tell me, what did you see play out there? Because it
was a competitive game the entire game. It looked like, the Raiders were going to take it in regulation, and the Chargers, they came back and tied it up. That final drive, it's like 30 seconds left. Up until that point, no one used the timeout. So it's kind of like, they both agreed on tying the game. Then it's a third down situation, and the Chargers head coach decides to call timeout, and I think that completely changed the mindset. I even think the Raiders head coach said that. But, I mean, you play to win the game. I mean, I know it sucks as a player, you're not making the playoffs and losing the game in that fashion, but you do play to win the game, and I probably would have leaned toward, tying it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're all competitors. You want to win. It's winners and losers. Nobody really wants to tie. So I kind of understand why he did it, but given the circumstance and what was on the line, I probably would have went for the tie.
You said this before we hopped on. It's better to have LA for the Chiefs. It's better to have LA out of the playoffs.
Definitely.
Right? I mean, we'd much rather have, because what would have happened if they would have tied? We would have played the Raiders at home.
I'm not sure, but I think the Chargers are a really good football team, despite them not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're a good football team, and they have the potential to make a run. They have the quarterback to do it, for sure. Right. And they matched up well against us. I mean, everyone has those teams that, no matter what they do against anyone else, they match up better against you. And I think the Chargers, there's just one of those teams that match up well against us. They have the right pieces, to compete against the Chiefs. So I'm thankful that they're out the playoffs. I think we still would have pulled it out, but it just made our path a little bit more easy.
Right. No, that's exactly right. So here we go. We got the Steelers. We're going into playoffs. And I just know, speaking about the playoffs in general, and you know this too, Jeff, and we've hit on it before, but once those playoffs get going, man, the game picks up. I'm talking about, first off, during the week, because you're so close to that goal, right? You're so close to that trophy. During the week, coaches, players are sleeping at the facility. You're just, you're living, eating, breathing every minute football, right? You're studying the game plan. You're watching the film. I mean, nobody's going home. You're there all night, all day, recovering, everything that you can do to get ready. There's really nothing. There's nothing like the playoffs. And then the media presence is up, right? Before every game. Now, normally you have a certain number of media people coming into the locker room. Boom. That place is full. National media, everybody's around. you go to the hotel the night before the game, place is packed, people want autographs, especially as you get further and further into the playoffs. You pull up to the hotel, there's thousands of people out in front of the hotel. It's just a really unique situation. And then you get going on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday. Jeff, you can talk about this, man. How fast is that game when
it's fast. I mean, you alluded to it during the week, the preparation. So you get out there, both sides of the ball, everyone's keyed in, both teams.
Right.
For the most part, you know what's going on. So when you get to the playoffs, there's some wrinkles here and there, and the coach that has, something up their sleeve usually takes the game. But for the most part, we know each other. Even if it's not a team in your division, you know your opponent. So it's based off of technique, leverage, who's gonna beat their man, one-on-one matchups, who's gonna win those matchups. Because at the end of the day, the playbook's the playbook. We've seen it for 18 weeks.
Right.
Every team is seeing every team on film, and they've prepared to a T. So you just gotta go out there and make plays. And the team usually who wins in the trenches, which we have a good offense and defensive line, and who have playmakers that can make plays when needed, they usually have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And that's why, even when we were, 3-4 early in the year, I knew exactly where we'd be because we have the tools and the pieces, to make a run. So, anything can happen, but we're well suited. We're prepared. The experience, been there, done that. So, I'm looking forward to see what the Chiefs do.
The playoff experience is so important again, because like you're saying, Jeff, it's just a different world when everybody's a blank slate. Now that you start, the season doesn't matter, records don't matter, stats don't matter. Everything starts over, and it starts over fast. And I remember when I was with the Jets, it was the second, it was the 2010, we were playing New England in the divisional round. And Rex Ryan had put this graphic up on the board during a team meeting that showed all the playoff games, the combined playoff games that the Patriots roster had been in. So every guy, how many playoff games they played, and our team and how many playoff games we had played in. And our team at that point had more guys who played in more playoff games than New England did. And we ended up winning that game. But he was talking about how important it is to have that playoff experience. Now, I don't know the Pittsburgh's roster that well. Obviously, Roethlisberger's been to a ton of playoff games. But I imagine in the Mahomes era, with everything that they've been, all the different playoff games that they've been to, this is a very mature team in the playoff.
I hate to bring it up, but as talented as we were, what year was that? 2015?
Yeah, 15.
Playoffs.
Yeah.
We beat we lost to the Colts. That was one of those games.
That was 2013.
That was 2013. See,
yeah.
I want to forget it so much that I don't remember the date.
Yeah.
But that was one of those games where we just weren't used to being in that atmosphere.
Exactly.
We weren't used to that moment. Even though we went up big, you got to keep your foot on the gas, and that's just one of those things where we didn't have the experience.
Exactly.
Anything can happen in the playoffs. You can't let up. And there was a series of unfortunate events with injuries and some bad luck here and there. It takes that. But if you're experienced, I think that was one of those things where you stay in the game,
right,
and you win that type of game.
Oh, that's exactly right. Because teams are going to fight to the bitter end, right?
Yeah.
Because it is the end. There is no next week for the losing team. So you're right. You can't let off the gas at all, and we did. That was the worst loss I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. I know. I still can't get over that. That's one of those things where I'm like, damn, we really had a really good team that year, and it was unfortunate the way that we lost, but that's the playoffs.
That's it.
You have to play into the very end.
Right. Got to fight. And we have the maturity. We have a great mixture of young guys who are going to be flying around, and older guys who can bring that message, convey that to the younger guys, and really lead by example out there. And so we're setting up for a good week. Another interesting part about this is we've played Pittsburgh before. And Tucker, our producer here, talked about before we got on how I believe all the AFC teams are playing teams that they played before in the regular season. And I think that's an advantage to an extent. I remember 2009 with the Jets, we went to the playoffs and we needed to win the last game against the Bengals to get in. And we beat the Bengals and then ended up playing the Bengals the next week in the first week. And we spanked them both times, right? We spanked them in the last week of the season. that we turned around and we had so much confidence. And 6 days later, just whooped up on them again.
Yeah.
And so I think it is good for the Chiefs that they've already played Pittsburgh. They know exactly what they're getting into. They know exactly what's coming. They're going to be wrinkles and stuff like that. But all right, Big Jeff, just to finish up, I'm curious what your thought. I want to get sort of in the mind of an offensive lineman preparing to play TJ Watt, right? So here's a guy who tied the sack record going into the, this big playoff game. And obviously some stuff at right tackle. How do you get ready for a player like that?
You have to be prepared to show up. You have to show up because they're going to help. I mean, EB and Coach Reed, they're going to put together a game plan where they, put the focus and protection on him because he could wreck a game. But there are going to be moments where you have to man up as an individual and win the one-on-one matchup because the entire game can't be helping that individual. Can't be Andrew Wiley getting help the entire game. Right. So you got to win those. There won't be many. I think they may be 4 or 5 plays, but those are going to be critical plays where, we need to convert a third down or, low in the red zone where you want to get more guys in routes so you can score a touchdown. But you just got to show up. It's one of those things where you may not get any sleep at night because you're constantly watching film. You're constantly watching film. But I have the full confidence because Wiley is a dog.
Yeah.
He's a dog. He may not be the top tier tackle, but he's going to fight his ass off. And that's what I love about him. He's not going to back down. He's not going to be afraid. And that's the most important part. If you go out there with any fear at all and he smells blood, it's over with for you. So I don't worry about Wiley being scared. He may give up a play here and there, but he's going to fight to the end. So it's the perfect person to be in there if we have to have a replacement.
Right.
It's Andrew Wiley.
Oh, that's great to hear, brother. Before we go, because we don't got much to say today, it is playoff football. Let's get ready and rock. We'll come back next week and break it all down for you. But before we go, Big Jeff, let's shout out to our sponsors, ticketsforless.com. If you're looking to score an unbeatable deal on Chiefs tickets, my friends at Tickets for Less have you covered. Locally owned for more than 17 years, ticketsforless.com has the best selection of Chiefs tickets for every game, all without the outrageous taxes or per-ticket service fees you find on other sites. Plus, you can use our exclusive KCSN promo code from Tickets for Less to save even more. Use code KCSN21 at checkout to save big on any Chiefs order at ticketsforless.com. That's KCSN21. Big Jeff, playoff week, baby. Not much to talk about. Let's go in. Hayes in the barn. Let's go out there and get ready, brother. Get this win and come back next week and recap it, all right?
Let's do it. Go Chiefs. Beat the Steelers.
Go Chiefs.